Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. Counting down to pre-open, and it looks like we'll have a good start. That's the SGX Nifty, but as we have seen recently, that may not be the best indicator of market. The mood is good this morning with the way crude prices have declined. Here's Manisha Gupta, in fact, talking about crude and other commodities. Manisha, good morning.
Morning, and thank you so much for that, Anuj. Well, yes, we have seen 2% decline come in for the Brent prices, 2.5% down for the US crude as well. And it is a $9 of a gap that you have seen between the US and the Brent prices, with the US holding around 66 and Brent now just about at 75. Remember, we have been talking on the charts as well on how the hedge funds have been accumulating shorts around $80, and they seem to be now buying at the lower level. So when you look at the latest CFTC data, there is now that unwinding happening and some buying coming back at 75, 76 as well. So we perhaps could see some consolidation come in at those levels. Fundamentally also, you have seen Saudi Arabia and Russia discuss about 1 million barrels per day being added into the global supplies. That is what brought the prices down. Apart from that, the US rig count has increased by 15 in the previous week. That stands at an 859. So the active US drilling rig number also has been increasing. In any case, the US production has increased by 27% in last 2 years, and we have seen that production gain up every week in last many weeks, and that could be bringing prices at the consolidation level at these current levels now.
Okay, Manisha, thanks a lot for that. So that's the update as far as crude is concerned, but the market pre-opening levels have come in. And while we wait for the pre-opening rates to settle, what we can say is that a couple of these stocks like Tech Mahindra and Sun Pharma will open in the green. Tech Mahindra in pre-opening is having a strong rate. Remember, the EBIT, the operational performance for the company has gone up 100 basis points quarter on quarter. And that's looking pretty good. Yes, go ahead.
6750 on the rupee. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in time people tried to make the dollar cheaper than 67.50 as well. But that would be the tendency today. People are turning a little bearish on the dollar as well, as we just heard Credit Suisse's Alexander Redmond saying earlier in the show. So there could be a little bit of more strength to go in the rupee. This is the opening tick, and 67.50 is quite a strong support level for the dollar. But we really will have to wait for the bond rate to see how much. If it goes towards 7.7, then that again is very, very positive for the markets.
Actually, now down 5%, and there's a good chance that people might sell into these numbers on Sun Pharma. So let's see how that one pans out.
Bank of Baroda is what I was looking for.
HPBP and IOC. Just keep an eye on these stocks. They have been beaten down, and most of these stocks are now looking like they'll have a good start.
Even ONGC, isn't it? That windfall says at least the conversation will go out of the window for now.
Actually, ONGC fell that day 10% intraday. It recovered 6% that day itself. Another 2-3% next day. But
logically, it should fall when crude prices fall. But then, just because it got a walloping, maybe it will.
The thing with ONGC is its Goldilocks is somewhere around $65 on crude, because anyway its realizations have been capped at 65. So 65. Anything above that, I don't know if there's any windfall, but the problem is because your gains are also capped. In that case, the stocks gains are also capped. Maybe the losses are capped, but gains are also capped.
Okay, a couple of more stocks we'd want to look at. Cadila actually is rising. Remember, in the conference call, the management had guided for an EBITDA margin expansion of 100 basis points in FY19. So I think that's something that the street likes right now. And Nalco is the other one. As Nigel was telling us, sales have gone up almost 20% this time. So that was something that the street liked, although operational performance was not that great. So these are a couple of stocks to look at.
Okay, we'll wait. I think things will have to settle down. And maybe now the Sensex is showing a 103-point gain. And rupee, of course, it breaches 67.5. But let's see. It could be a flash in the pan.
It is up 10%. I think the market liked the fact that, he said that the promoters have a regret of that transaction.
And it won't happen again.
And it won't happen again. So
that's taken very positively. And in any case, as Ashwini was pointing out, the cost of capital argument will ensure that mid caps and small caps are not beaten down too much today. We may see recovery where they have been beaten down. But let's look at another set of numbers that was a little painful. It was the Lakshmi Vilas Bank numbers. It reported its first ever operational loss. Asset quality deteriorated with gross NPAs at nearly 10%. This is a stock which used to do so well in the past. Sarthi Mukherjee, Managing Director and CEO, Lakshmi Vilas Bank, joins us now. Good morning, Mr. Mukherjee. Thank you very much. This is a dramatic jump in NPAs. I would assume it's the February 12th effect. Is it all recognized now, all your restructured standard?
Yes, Lata, I can now say with reasonable confidence that we more or less cleaned up everything. You'll appreciate that at the beginning of the year itself, we had said that we had a watch list of about 2,500 crores that could.
Oh, okay. We'll just set that line right. We should be able to get to Parthasarathy Mukherjee in a minute. But okay, if the market is convinced that all the pain is has been declared, then perhaps we will see a little bit of recovery in the stock.
Okay, as we await Mr. Mukherjee's line, let's just get back to the stock market. For now, Tech Mahindra actually is a top gainer. It's up almost about 6% in pre-opening. And remember, with this, its annual gains are almost 50%. So it's been a big mover there. Ashwini, how would you trade Tech Mahindra henceforth?
So it's had its run in the sun. Now, for the moment, it would decline, but I think overall, techs will remain in an uptrend. So maybe closer to 650, 670. If you get that sort of decline, only then buy it. It's in an uptrend, and chances are you'll see probably 850, 870 at some point.
Okay, there's a mild green tick on Bank of Baroda now. See, there are other things also going, considering that the bond prices are likely to rise, open higher today. Okay, they have opened higher, 7.73. That's a substantial improvement on bond prices. I think that's a yield jump of about 5 basis points or 4 basis points. So all that will also add to the bonhomie in the in the bond markets, and I would expect NBFCs to be even more delighted with this move in bond prices.
Sun Pharma is now up 6%. Let's see the market's reaction. That looks a big one. Keep in mind, it's destroyed a lot of wealth over the last 2 years. HPCL, of course, would be the other one to track. 4% higher in pre-opening on HPCLs. So.
I think we have Parthasarathy Mukherjee with us back again. Mr. Mukherjee, we lost your line when you were telling us about the asset quality. If you can guide us, how much of the 2,500 crore watch list has been recognized?
Yes, quite frankly, the bulk of that has fallen. So, that at least it gives, in an overall relatively dark scenario, at least it gives us comfort to see that the fall has been largely from the watch list. I can now tell you with reasonable confidence that the remainder of the stress that we might see today in the book is somewhat about 19 or 20 accounts, which could probably all add up to another 400 crores. But it does not necessarily mean that these are going to be slipping now.
Okay.
What is more important for us is, at this moment, that for the next year, at least for the current year, the bulk of the provisioning is going to be only on account of past slippages. And I think we are reasonably confident that the entire provisioning burden will be met from recoveries. We've launched a very aggressive recovery drive. And my sense is this year, the entire provisioning requirement will be more than surpassed by the recoveries that we'll make. So quite frankly, the worst seems to be behind us at this moment. It's now for us to raise fresh capital, and which will be largely to fund growth for us.
In fact, I was just coming to that. Are you in talks with any strategic investors to sell any equity? Because there's some reports suggesting that you're looking to sell about 26% equity or so.
I believe there is some speculation in the media today about specific names. I must tell you that I have been in touch with many prospective investors, of course. But as at this moment, the board hasn't worked out a specific plan yet. In the first place, the board will, in fact, the capital raising committee of the board will appoint an advisor. And subsequently, we do hope to go in for a capital raise.
Saying that you are in touch.
It could be a number of raises, probably in tranches.
Sure. You are in touch with investors at the moment. By when do you think this capital raising would happen?
We've been talking to a lot of prospective investors. Some names have been... my sense is capital raise would have to happen early. As you can see, my tier 1 capital is below the threshold. So the sooner I raise it, the better. And it will be our effort to do so quickly. But I must tell you that the specific news items in the media might not necessarily be very accurate.
Well, just a couple of numbers before the line lets us down. What is the current capital adequacy? What would you like it to be? I mean, and secondly, what kind of loan growth are you expecting?
I'll start with the loan growth. I was expecting that this year we would report somewhere in the region of 20 to 22% as far as our loan growth will be during the current year. Our tier 1 has come down to 8.01, and we do hope to take it up well beyond 14.
Right, Mr. Mukherjee, thanks a lot for your time today. That's Lakshmi Vilas Bank. The markets have settled in pre-open. What's interesting is because both HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank are actually starting slightly in the red, the Bank Nifty is opening only 18 points higher, but the Nifty is opening 43 points higher. Ashwani, what's the trade here and what would be your 9-10 call?
Well, today, indices, I don't think there is much to do. But obviously today is a day when, crude sensitive, inflation sensitive, those sort of stocks could do much better. So, the PSU oil stocks, those are the kind of plays that you need to look for.
Okay, we'll just come back to you guys in a bit. But for now, yes, your 9-10 call, sorry.
The 9-10 call is Pidilite. That is a buy with a stop around 1120, target of 1180.
All right, so Pidilite, that one has had it really good in the last few days. But BEML has posted a weak quarter. The overall year was quite good for the company though. DK Hota, the chairman of BEML, joins us now to talk about that. Mr. Hota, good morning. Q4 was weak in terms of revenue growth, but for the entire fiscal, revenue growth has been 30%. Will this rate continue?
Well, on the top line, I would say that next year we will give you at least 30% growth on the top line. At least, if not more.
Okay, at least 30% growth on the top line. That's good to hear. One positive surprise this quarter was margin expansion. Is this also something that we can treat as a new normal?
Yeah, the margins, see what happens is, for example, if I supply a metro coach, part of my revenue comes as a defect liability period after some months of commissioning. So even though this year I will churn out, say, as many metro coaches, but part of that revenue will come in the following year. That is one, why you really can't compare on a yearly basis. Second is I've got an order for memo from the Indian Railways. Now by the time they decide on the costing, that will take some time. But initially I have to anyway go ahead on the kind of initial numbers that they have given. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the margins as such can go up in some year, go up in some quarter, but it is not because we are very efficient in that quarter or inefficient in that quarter. You have to look at a very broader time frame. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Then we come to order flows. Can you give us a sense of what you're expecting?
Numbers, as I said, when I'm going to grow at least 30% next year, so there has to be an inflow of orders. But this year, at the moment, I have an executable order book of 2,700 crores, executable. But my total order book is about 6,700.
Okay, well, actually, sir, the investment community is really expecting to hear something about the stake sale. There has been a lot of to and fro regarding approvals. What's the latest?
Honestly, if you ask me, that is something that the central government handles it, the Ministry of DIPAM, on the strategic sale. Whatever information they have asked from us, we have furnished it. We've formed various committees where we are members, and that is what it is. I think it's best for you to check with Ministry of DIPAM. They will be able to give you the most updated version of that.
Mr. Hota, thanks a lot for your time today. That's BEML. Ashwani, a quick chart check on this one. Fresh 52-week lows.
Well, it's going down. It's one of my sell calls. So maybe if you get a bit of a rally because of the market, etc., I think get short on it and you'll probably see levels lower than 900.
Okay, well, at the moment, the oil marketing companies are taking it away. Sudarshan, will you hop on to any of these, HP, BP, IOC?
Well, yes, I think so. At least for the time being, they've made their lows and there's a buying opportunity for HP and BP. IOC, not so much on IOC.
What would you do with the Bank of Baroda chart, Sudarshan?
Well, all PSU banks are suggesting that some kind of a relief rally is in the offing. And good for them, let them have the rally. I would not suggest buying it because they can turn around very quickly.
Okay. Ashwini, what about Sun Pharma? I know it's destructed a lot of wealth in the recent past, but do you think it's found a low around these levels?
Well, it's found a low till the next problem. So, you can get short covering today and probably it'll have a good day today, but you shouldn't expect more than a 3 to 5 day type of rally. And pharma in that sense is not bottoming out like tech did some time back.
Okay. Prakash, anything has swum into your radar now?
Possibly Indian Bank might go up from here. Again, a relief rally possible to around 330 zones, stop below 310.
Yeah, at the moment, banks and NBFCs are looking like a relief rally is on the anvil. But let's wait and see, since it's only 20 seconds. Anything else you want to train our gaze on, Ashwini?
See, basically, it's the oil marketing which is going to do well, and maybe a few financials because of inflation, etc.
Okay. Well, it's time for the bell, and looks like a 0.5% gain for the market. Okay, 0.39, 0.4, exactly where the pre-market ended. That's where we have opened very close to 10,650, and the Sensex 35,000 crossed, about 100 points higher. Nifty Bank has done better than it did in the pre-market. It's now up 0.25%. And it's the mid-caps that are up and away. HP, BP, IOC are all up about 5%, depending on what you pick. Sun Pharma also higher. Bank of Baroda is higher in the sense, even the first rate is up 2%. That's mainly the stocks that are doing exceptionally well. Any other, red ticks? Okay, I'm just looking for Tech Mahindra. That started in the red. 0.7 down. HCL Tech. Actually, all the rupee related, the tech stocks are all down. Between 0.25% and 1%. Vedanta continues to slip again because of Sterlite woes. But that's the market really. IT down, banks up.
Okay, well, the mid-cap index for now is has opened in the green, up about 0.6%. The advanced decline ratio is good. More than 1,000 stocks on the advancing side. The aviation stocks are surging now. Jet Airways is up 5%. Interglobe Aviation is up about 4% on the back of the falling crude prices, of course. Excel Industries is one stock. Very good numbers coming in. So that stock is up almost about 6.5% right now. Sarda Energy has a double-digit gain going for itself, up almost about 11.5 to 12%. Let's take a look at some of these other stocks, that are rallying. The entire fertilizer space is up and about this morning. Nagarjun, RCF, FACT, that whole lot up about 3 to 6%. Volumes are picking up there. You also have sugar stocks that are doing well. Balrampur Chini, etc. Triveni Engineering, all in the green. Praj Industries, all up about 3 to 4%. So agrochemical, that whole pocket is doing pretty well this morning. Looking at some of the result reactions then, let's take a look at Cadila. Margin expansion of 100 basis points is what the management has guided for. So Cadila is flat with a bit of a positive move there. Some good numbers coming in from the likes of Meg Money Organics, Ramkrishna Forgings. Nalco had a sales growth of about 18%. Just keep an eye out on all of these stocks. Himmat Singh Seed, etc. also in the green. Divi's Labs holding up. So is NBCC. On the downside though, you do have a couple of these stocks. Okay, Ramkrishna Forging is actually down about 1.5%, maybe some profit taking there. Shriram EPC is down about 13%. Keep an eye out on that. Tech Mahindra is selling off some more, maybe profit taking there as well. And a couple of these names, Relcom, IDBI Bank, etc., are also a tad bit in the red. But otherwise, it's actually a good opening for the market.
It's a very good opening, and the issue is it opened sort of flat and then picked up. PC Jeweler, by the way, is down 3.5% in opening. So let's see how that one shapes out. Sun Pharma, after opening 5% higher, is actually now up only 3.5%. Ashwini, thoughts on market opening and any individual trade?
See, Bank Nifty we have bought because it's showing early morning traction. Also today, like I mentioned, CEAT is doing very well. So there you can buy. I think Escorts has started off fairly strongly. So CEAT, Escorts, and maybe Reliance was looking for a breakout on Friday. That seems to be happening right now. Overall bullish tendencies, because now the commodity consumer is getting benefited, like unlike earlier when commodity producers had it good. So possibly looking at another good day with more mid-cap participation.
Okay. I'm once again coming to you, Sudarshan, with the same set of questions. Oil marketing companies, which one would be the best to play, or would you play all three, IOC, BP, HP?
No, IOC I wouldn't touch. It is BPCL which would be the best to trade today. And we have forgotten Reliance and Maruti. Both are opportunities for the day. Reliance itself is an oil giant in so many ways.
Okay, well, L&T ahead of its numbers is also trading in the green. Prakash Gaba wanted quick thoughts on how to trade L&T today. You know, it's had its fair share of an up move. It's moved from 1100 to almost 1400 now. But how would you trade it?
I think we'll trade on the long side, like the move that started today. Perhaps we can see a move around 1370 zones or so. Stop below 1340 on L&T, it's just fine.
Thank you very much, Prakash. Sorry, you were going to say that?
No, I was going to thank Prakash.
Thank you, Prakash, for joining us. Well, actually, markets are settling in with the Nifty now moving to a 0.5% gain, and largely on the strength of the oil marketing companies. Yes Bank also is having a good day. Axis is having a good day. Actually, private sector banks are having a very good day, and the Nifty Bank is surprised, the one that's leading the charge. I expected PSU banks and NBFCs to do exceptionally well, but now you have even the private banks joining the brigade, and therefore Nifty Bank charging ahead.
Some NBFCs are doing well, by the way. Just pull out the intraday chart of M&M Financial and also Piramal Enterprises, which comes out with numbers today, and that's one area where you're seeing quite a bit of buying, early morning buying today. So these are a couple of names that look good. Okay, so Ashwini, before we let you go for now, what's the big call for the day? What stock would you be chasing?
I think SIAT and Escorts both look good. Overall, I think the banks have started fairly strongly, and maybe another strong day on Bank Nifty. It actually came off on Friday about 100 points, so that it's making up. So now possibly some amount of strategic shorts also may start to cover, but IT looks like it's going to give back, so that should have a fairly soft day.
Okay, by the way, Manpasand Beverages, we should just pull that up. It's down quite a bit. I think it's down about 20-odd%. That's what my team tells me. Yeah, 20% down circuit there on Manpasand Beverages. Not only has the auditor resigned, but even you know, brokerages like Kotak have now suspended their rating on the company. We saw this happen the last time around as well. There was a huge knock after those issues cropped up, and once again this has come through.
PC Jewelers, by the way, after starting with a minor green, with a big green bar, is now down 5%. So clearly the market is latching on only where they have comfort at this point in time, but it's a big rally. No taking away from that. It's 10,660 as we speak, and the Nifty Bank is up 0.7. That's a 170-point rally in the Nifty Bank. A great scenario. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, and we will, of course, invite you yet again for your 10 a.m. trades. Let's invite our market master for the morning. Dipen Seth, Head Institutional Research at HDFC Securities, joins us in our studio. Good morning, Dipen. Always a pleasure having you with us. Well, let's straight away get to stocks, because there is quite a bit of a surging rally over here. You know, assuming that crude is going to oblige and at least 80 plus is not looking immediately on the anvil, would you say that at this point we should be buying oil marketing companies, NBFCs, any of the beneficiaries?
Yeah, so you can play the volatility, as it were. Just because crude has come off 79 kind of levels, we are saying maybe it won't go beyond 80. 6 months ago, nobody would have imagined that it could settle comfortably over 70. So we can end up chasing prices like most analysts. The other way to look at it is, are we structurally entering a high crude zone? And does that structurally affect our economy? And at the smallest sign of selling off in crude at higher levels, so again you have the betas running up. So this is how it will continue for a while. Actually, the big picture is quite confusing and volatile, if you ask me right now. And there are equally good arguments on both sides on whether we are in a structural bull market, or is it that after a great 2017, are we going to go nowhere over 2018? And in fact, could there be a big crack lurking around the corner? And let me tell you, seeing both sides of the argument, it's difficult to take a very definite call on where markets might go. So if you ask me what's going to happen in 5 years from now, I'm very, very constructive on India. But there is high crude prices, some of which is let off, of course, and oil marketing companies are jumping off their cracks of 30, 40, 50%, or I don't know where they are, right? So you can play it on a day-to-day basis, or you can take a 2, 3, 4 year view out and say, you know, that I really don't care what happens with political uncertainty, what happens with the weak rupee and high crude prices, I will buy what I think works for India in the long run.
Okay, by the way, today it's just about the currency move. Now it's in fact the dollar rupee is to almost 67.35 thereabout, and you're seeing a big move. Tech Mahindra, for example, after delivering great set of numbers, is down 3% and is the top Nifty loser right now. They've been good morning. So has that sort of trade reversed for good, or is it still going to give you more bang for the buck if you buy?
No, it's very much on. If you look at what's happening in Tech Mahindra, they have assiduously worked to improve margins over the last 4 or 5 quarters. They're doing some significant cost cutting in their non-performing babies, as it were, whether it's an LCC or Comviva, and they're now looking at actually growing their telecom business, which was sagging for a while, especially as 5G networks come into play. The rest of their business, the enterprise business, is actually growing at 16-17%. So I don't think there is anything fundamentally wrong with the company. And if you look at the kind of numbers that we've built into our estimates for the next 2 years, I think Tech Mahindra is available for about 13x. Now, at a time when the rupee can't strengthen beyond, let us say, 66, 67, if I was to put it that way, at a time when oil prices are unlikely to crack below, let's say, 65, and at a time when the IT sector has pulled back from a perceived abyss, a lot of us were willing to write off the IT sector a year and a half ago, and look at the magnificent way in which it's pulled back. So 13.5x on a large company, 60-odd thousand crores market cap, doesn't look too bad to me at all.
Okay, so that's the valuation argument that you have been making for a while. You've also made that argument with PSU banks. I mean, you know, Bank of Baroda, SBI, etc. You think the risk reward is favorable now that, you know, a lot of the cleanup is done?
Yeah, so a lot of the cleanup is done is something we've been fantasizing about for, I don't know, I think the last 8 quarters, maybe more. And every quarter we feel that...
We were also fantasizing about earnings growth for the last 4 years. Second half when the earnings growth will come. It's come now. So, I mean, therefore, would you say that even in PSU banks, a benefit of doubt
I'm
can
very
be
happy you asked that, Lata, because this quarter's note that we published on Bank of Baroda has a headline called The Final Countdown. Okay, it's a final countdown in 2 ways. One, that at 11% or whatever it is, we think GNPAs have perhaps peaked out, because now the RBI has really applied the jhadu, so to say. So it was all kinds of bank managements which were saying we've recognized pain and there's no more, and then there was some more thing happening on the restructured book, and there was a watch list and this and that, and we've seen Axis go through that for quite some time. But now the RBI said, okay, end of restructuring as we know it, and this is it. You need to recognize all the stress, and if this isn't a peaking out, then we'll never see a peak out. Okay, so there has to be some sense of a final countdown now. The second sense in which it's a final countdown is that is a CEO change coming up, and we've been reposing faith in Mr. Jayakumar for the last few years, and he's gone through an awful time in terms of steering a troubled ship out of trouble, and we believe he's just at the verge of being able to do it. And if you forget the legacy worries that he inherited, all the stuff that has happened under his tenure has been constructive for the bank, whether it's a tight fix on OPEX, whether it's risk-based pricing for incremental lending. And although I concede that there hasn't been too much seasoning in the incremental lending which has happened, there's very little sign of incremental stress there. They are one of the few banks who've been able to hold on to NIMs in this asset quality crack, which tells you something about the way they're pricing their incremental lending. And if the stress isn't showing up in an incremental way, it's only the past sins which are being cleaned up. I think I'm looking at BOB at one time FY20 ABV, but remember, the ABV doesn't change as much because of reported profits and losses as much as it changes because of changes in asset quality. So PSU banks are a complete high beta play on asset quality, and if your IBC resolutions play out, if the economy straightens up, then I think even SBI is at about one-time book adjusted for subsidiary value.
Okay, so that's quite a convincing argument. Let's see if the market gets convinced or not. But talking about these IBC and NCLT resolutions, what about the private sector corporate banks that have also been, you know?
So there's ICICI and Axis which immediately come to mind in terms of the large banks, which are large private sector banks, which are exposed to this big corporate stress blowout, as it were. Again, the pullback there could be almost as good as what the pullback might be for the PSU banks, who are obviously even more exposed to IBC/NCLT pain and now healing as it seems to be playing out. You need to watch asset quality at these banks very carefully. The beautiful thing about both Axis and ICICI, we are more constructive on ICICI, is that there are other parts in their business which look very interesting. And Axis has a creditable retail book now, which is some 35, maybe 40% of its advances. ICICI has a whole lot of interesting subsidiaries where it's creating value. And also it has a fabulous retail franchise, a great deposit franchise as well. So if they get their act into play, I think both these banks can deliver value. We have a buy right now on ICICI. We want to watch. We don't think the big pain has still been recognized at Axis and the bad news is still completely out. Although the cleanup has happened, Bain has put in money, they've recognized stress. I think we'll probably wait a quarter for Axis.
Okay, by the way, the